So a question that was put forward to me this week is taking and embarking on the mission to Mars and to colonize Mars, as we are going to be doing in the next decade. Would this unite us as a human species, or would this actually divide us and tear us apart? And there is an absolute reactionary answer to this, and there is a much more complex consideration to this question. So I'm going to try to tackle it both. If you were to ask me to give you an absolute quick answer, I would say both. It will certainly unite us because, as I've seen with organizations I partner and work with, as I've seen even with my individual coaching clients, having a purpose, having a goal, having a mission that is much bigger than yourself, that is meaningful and has a huge impact on humanity and the planet as a whole, certainly drives a unifying type of movement. And I saw this in South Africa for myself, where when Mandela came in, he focused all his energy on, well, a lot of his energy, on us winning the Rugby World Cup and sport. And when we did win that World Cup, I remember being in South Africa and how for one night it united an entire nation. And that was because we had something bigger than ourselves to all work and collaborate. So all the work that Elon Musk is doing, all the work that Richard Branson's doing, I'm not going to mention Jeff Bezos because that's a bit controversial right now, but ultimately I think they have good intentions to actually give life insurance to our species and expand our markets and explore the unknown. And this has always been a part of our history as humanity, from Christopher Columbus days all the way up to now Elon Musk colonizing Mars, and I think it's certainly a unifying force. However, I do think that whilst this might save the planet, whilst this will definitely expand options, and as a coach and as a radical change practitioner, I'm all about expanding options. However, moving to Mars, the more research I do, the more people I talk to, the more physicians, the more biologists I engage with, the more I realize that this will fundamentally change us as a species. So moving to Mars, or even just going to space, has a profound effect on our bodies, on our minds, and on our hearts. And do I think humanity will ever be the same, or do I think people who land up colonizing Mars will stay exactly the same and be unified? That would be very short-sighted given all the evidence. So I see a future where, yes, it's both. It'll initially unite us around a common cause. I think moving to Mars might take a little bit of pressure off climate change, where we can start mining other planets or mining asteroids, which is the vision of a lot of these billionaire revolutionaries. However, once we're there, I reckon the standard politics and the standard commercialization will kick in. Because if we're living on Mars, well, who's in charge? Do we answer to Earth? Do we answer to Mars? Or do we answer to the moon base? And it sort of reminds me of the Dutch East India Company days, where South Africa became the halfway point for trade between India and the UK, and Holland, obviously. And initially, it was a really great thing. It was unifying. It was there to create gardens to sell oranges, for example, to sailors who were dying of scurvy on ships. But eventually, we saw what happened to South Africa, where we first had the British then come in and try to take over, and there was a big war and occupation. We then saw apartheid happen and break it up. So I think our species is far too intelligent and far too complex and far too interesting to think that we would just simply stay united around a mission to Mars. And one only needs to read some visionary science fiction such as Red Rising or anything by Andrew Weir to actually think through the complexities or scenario test the complexities of how we as a species, whilst we love being united, we also love looking after ourselves, and we also like to be empowered within a community. So all in all, I think it's both. I think it will have a unifying force, but it'll have an equal and opposite effect in terms of dividing us as well.